Hello and welcome back to the channel today. In today's video I'm going to talk about a thing called creative block. It's something that I went through a couple of months ago, so I'll discuss why I got creative block, what I did to overcome it, and how I got to the other side of it. So I'll see you in a moment. As a creative, I think that this is something that affects everybody who's in some sort of creative industry or creative have a creative hobby, regardless of whether it's something you do for work or it's something you do in your spare time. I think we all have situations where we hit that creative wall where we just lose inspiration, or we just don't feel like going out doing that creative thing. And I think it's particularly prevalent in photography, because sometimes photography involves the art of actually getting out of bed and going out and shooting at ungodly hours of day. But there are various factors that can give us creative block. So sometimes it can be a case of just not having that inspiration there to want to go out and do photography or to shoot photographs. In other situations, it could be something in your life that's causing you stress, and that might be affecting your ability to feel creative and go and push yourself to do that photography. Or even for a lot of us, it's time. I think we're all increasingly living busier lives these days, where work and family and things like that take over that spare time you have to do things creatively. So if you're lucky enough that you're or depending on how you look at it, if you're lucky enough to do this as a full-time profession, creative block can affect you in more ways than one, because not only is it your hobby or your pastime, it's also your income as well. So getting that creative block can be a really worrying time, but it's something I think that we all overcome at some point. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to obviously discuss what I was going through a couple of months ago in terms of creative block, how I overcome it, and how I've come out of the other side. A couple of months ago, during the summer, and I don't know whether it was because of the things that are going on around the world at the moment, being locked indoors and not being able to go out shooting, and also in my case, it's been really difficult to get to locations because I rely on public transport quite a lot. Public transport is quite up the wall at the moment. Trains are not running as frequently as there was before. Trains are very full and over and cramped at the moment because of the restrictions of what were being put in place. So I think for me, I think it was just a case of not wanting to go out and not feeling that I wanted to go out. Yeah, so my first tip to come over creative block is to try not to force it. I think if we when we get in a situation where we're struggling to do something, where we find something that we really enjoy and we're struggling not to do it and we want to go out and do it, is sometimes we try to force it. We try to go out shooting when we're not really feeling it, and I think that affects the creative block more, in the fact that if you go out and shoot and your inspiration's not there, you just maybe spend 2 or 3 hours just wandering around looking for things that you can't really find. So my tip is just try not force it. Don't let it don't push it. That inspiration will come back to you naturally. It will come back regardless of whether you think or not, but just don't try to force it, because I think the more you force it, the less it comes back to you. So I think it's just a case of try to do it naturally. Maybe go out and have a walk, not take the camera and look for inspiration, but don't deliberately going out and try to look for that creative endeavour. So take your time and don't force it. My second tip, and this is one tip that really helped me out over the last couple of months, was to go and plan a trip. Now, obviously at the moment, I know we've got a lot of restrictions in place, and we're all stuck indoors, and we're not allowed to do some of the essential journeys only. But hopefully, when we come out the other side, maybe December or January time, there may be options to open up again, so we can you can go out and have a photography trip. So for me, I decided to book 2 trips to the Lake District, one in September and one in October. And luckily, the one in October came just before the region that I live in was put into full lockdown. So I managed to cram that trip in just before we all got locked down. And it was literally the week before. So that was quite lucky for me. But the one thing I did is that I think shooting local is really, really good, and it really gives you inspiration. It gives you that ability to go and find compositions that you're used to, and the area, and places that you can go. But I think sometimes you get a little bit bored of going to the same places week in, week out. So going somewhere new or going somewhere different can really spark those creative juices. And I had 2 trips in the Lake District that I obviously discussed. The first one was in September, and I went to Keswick in the Lake District, at the top of Derwentwater, and it's a place that I'd never been to before, and it's a place that I really, really wanted to visit. It was actually a place I'd planned to go earlier on in the year, but obviously with all these things that are going on, it never materialised. So I was quite looking forward to going to Derwentwater, and I wasn't let down. I was greeted with a fantastic sunset on the first night, and it literally went purple. And what I'll do is I'll put one of the images up that I took on that night, and that really, really got me excited about photography, seeing that sunset, seeing those colours and those, that sky, and it was an absolutely wonderful evening. Just to sit by Derwentwater, just with my camera, just watching the world go by, not forcing it, not pushing it, and literally the conditions came to me, which was absolutely fantastic. So if you can take the time and take a trip at some point, it doesn't have to be a weekly or 2 weeks. It can be literally a day out in the Lake District. So once all the restrictions are gone and we're all back to being able to travel out of our areas, hopefully in the next 2 or 3 months, I definitely recommend see if you can book a trip and go out and go find somewhere new and go and discover something, maybe go to a place you've never photographed before. So it's definitely worth taking a trip and see if you can get that creative juices back. My next tip actually relates to what I've just said, and the fact that go out and step out of your comfort zone, try something different or try something new. So if you're a landscape photographer, maybe go and try a bit of street photographer. If you're a portrait photographer, go out and try a bit of landscape. Do something different to step out of that comfort zone, because I think sometimes it can actually push your creativity. Because I think if you're firmly stuck in your comfort zone and you're doing the same thing every week, you're shooting the same types of photograph, it can. I think sometimes it can, unless you truly love doing that type of genre of photographer, I think it can become a little bit samey or a little bit, robotic. Literally, you can set the camera up, set it up straight away, and take the photograph without any thought. Whereas, doing something new or doing something different can actually, make you think about the process that you're doing. So, for example, I shoot film a lot, and albeit even though they're two very similar pastimes in the fact that a digital camera and a film camera. A film camera, it takes a little bit more manipulation, or it takes a little bit more effort to actually get that correct exposure. So sometimes it can make you think about what you're doing. So if there's an ultimate tip I can do is go out and try something new and try something different, and it might spark that creativity to come back, and it might get you over that creative wall. My next tip is about going out and finding inspiration. I think sometimes we look at we tend to spend a lot of time on social media, and while it's great for inspiration, I think you can be guilty of getting the same old on social media, where if you're in certain groups, or if you follow certain accounts, you tend to get the same old. Whereas if you find inspiration in maybe books or going to galleries and libraries, obviously when we're back to normal and we can go back out, but I quite often go into Liverpool and I go for a wander around the Tate Gallery, or the museums that are in there, that quite often have photographic exhibitions on. And I think that seeing some photography, even photography that you normally wouldn't look at online. So, for example, like I said in my earlier point, if you're a portrait photographer and you do portraits all day, maybe go and find a bit of inspiration and go and look at landscapes, or go to a gallery that may be showing photographs from in the past, where styles and things may have been looked differently. It might give you a little bit of inspiration to push your photography to that level. So it's definitely worth go find an inspiration. Get some books, maybe get some magazines. Magazines are quite good, and go to galleries and go and visit places that that have that inspiration. So and it might be actually a good situation to actually not take your camera with you and just go out specifically for a day of soaking up inspiration, to go and look at galleries and look at things and look at photography as though you're not a photographer. So don't be thinking about what photos you're going to take, but finding inspiration and soaking up inspiration. So it's definitely worth going out and looking for inspiration and finding inspiration in different places that you might not think of before. So, I hope you found that little chat useful. It was a thing that there's a few tips that I've learned, and obviously got me through that creative block, and I think I've come better out of it. Come out to the other side better of it now. I'm actually getting that excitement of creating stuff again, taking photographs and obviously creating videos like this. So I hope you found these tips useful, and if you did, please leave me a comment below and tell me what you think. I'd love for you to subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and hopefully I will see you again next time.